Okay, so I found a house in Brentwood that has a $1.4 million assumable mortgage. I'm going to show you this house, take you through how I would offer on this house, the way I think about these. But what is this property worth? That is the question, because believe it or not, you do not pay, nor should you pay more for assuming a mortgage. Now, I've helped 7 buyers at this point assume mortgages for as low as 2.25%. And one thing that I know is you do not pay more. In fact, 6 of the 7 have paid less than list price. And the first one I did, we did not pay less. Every other one we've negotiated on price. Now, if you can get this property at a fair value and assume a 2.3% mortgage, you're getting a huge deal. But you should never, ever overpay, which brings me to, how do you value the property? What's it worth? Now, there are 3 ways you value a property. You look at comps, you look at the income approach, and we look at cost to build. I'm going to take a stab at all 3 of these methods because the truth is I don't care what a property is listed for. You list it for $5 million. Doesn't matter to me. The first thing I want to do is figure out what I think that property is worth. But keep in mind, I'm not a licensed appraiser. In fact, I intentionally do things differently. I'm sure appraisers and maybe even other real estate agents will hate it. At the very least, be entertained. Feel free to disagree with me, and you can leave it in the comments below. Let me just show you, these are all the listings right now that are active that have an assumable mortgage unless they got purchased by Open Door or refinanced. But these are from 2020, 2021. There's about 200 here, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. 200 low rate, 3% or less mortgages that are assumable, active listings right now on January 2nd, because a lot of listings have canceled or expired, especially at the end of the year. But let's take a look. Here's one right down here. We can see here it is. It's 6876 Walnut at $1.9 million. So is that even a good deal? Let me take you through how I think about these. And there it is. You can see in the description, 2.3% interest, $1.36 million remaining on a $1.9 million house in Brentwood, Tennessee, one of the most expensive markets in America, 7,800 square feet. This is a mammoth 8-bed, 5-bath, half-acre. Now, one thing I will say, 2,200 of the square feet is in the basement. So when I think about this is more like a 5,500 square foot house, but 2-bed and 1 full bath in the basement. This thing is a ginormous house. So how do you even think about this? How do you even think about what it's worth? Well, I've done 7 assumable mortgages, and essentially what assumable mortgage is, you purchase the house, but instead of getting your own mortgage, you assume the person's mortgage in the house. Now, there are certain mortgages like VA and FHA that you can actually do this and take over their responsibility, take over their liability, and take over their payments, just like it's your own personal mortgage that you initiated. And when it's 2.3%, the value is incredible. Now, one of the things that I've learned is that you do not pay more. And the reason being is if you were to appraise this house, no appraiser is actually going to look at whether or not you're paying a 2% mortgage or an 8% mortgage. They don't care. They just look at what houses around have been selling for, and that is how they value the house. So how do I value? What do I look at when I think about how to craft an offer? If I had a buyer that was looking at this house right now, which, I pitched it to a few people, it's ginormous. I mean, you really need to have like a family, which by the way, I talked to the list agent. I think they spent $70,000 or something on this deck, which is kind of nice, to be honest with you, because decks can be expensive. So the fact that they've already done that, that's a value add. Now, we also look at what they bought it for. They bought it for $1.5 million in February 22. Now, this to me is the biggest problem. As I'm thinking about what the resale value of this house is, I can tell you in general, there's been no appreciation on homes from February of 22 in this general area. Now you say, Ethan, how do you know whether or not there's been appreciation? Well, there's kind of 2 ways to do it. Now, instead of looking at individual comps that tick and tie and then upgrading and downgrading based on the quality of the countertops and the lot size, what we're going to do is we're going to look at all the comps in this area of similar size. And then we're also going to look at repeat sales. This is my Nashville real estate data website. You can go on the neighborhood tracker. And here we're just going down to Brentwood over to where this house is, which it's over in this area. So I'm going to click on this. I can look at the KPIs too, by the way, and see that the median in this area is 1.2 million. So this is listed above the median. It's a gargantuan house. Of course it would be, but there's been $5 million houses sell in this area. And the gross yield being 5.2% is actually a pretty good indicator that it's not bad value here. I mean, I've seen it much lower. It's not great value as an investment property. But if you took the median rent per square foot and compared it to the median sales price, you would get a 5.2% return if you didn't have any expenses, management, maintenance, taxes, insurance, that kind of thing. So let's take a look at this property. I'm going to show you how I would value it. By the way, look at that active contract over time. Okay, so this is the chart we're going to look at right here. We're going to zoom in a little bit, and then we're also going to dial in by size. And because this is the largest size, here's what we're looking at. Now, 4,800 to 15,000. This kind of encompasses pretty much everything over 4,800 square feet, which is a lot larger. But what we can see here, if we look at the lows, is in 22, we did see kind of a dip in prices, and then it kind of bounced back in 2023. I'm telling you, SVB, when they started printing money again, it changed the value of houses in Nashville. I cannot explain it, but it did. And you can see the lows started going back up. Now, we did have a dip in later 2025. It did get softer here, and people are now a little bit nervous about this market. The lows are right in line with where they were when they dropped in 22 to 23. And on the highs, we do notice something different. The highs have kind of been trending down for the most part, with the exception of one $3.5 million house over here. Everything else has been kind of trending down as well. Now, there's another way to look at this, and that's with repeat sales. So what I want to do here is I'm going to take all the repeat sales I can find in 2022 and compare them to 2025. Here's a chart. It says Q1 to 22. This is kind of a draft. I need to fix it. But here we can see we had 5 houses in this area that are repeat sales. And what I noticed is 2 of them actually appreciated. Okay. There's Sunset, 1056 Sunset. There's 760 Dairy. One went down, 903 Sunset, actually dropped from $2.3 million to 1.7. That is a disaster. And then 1 or 2 were flat. We have 9619 Deer Track was purchased for 1625 and then sold for 1630. That's basically flat. 6762 Walnut Hills Drive, and it sold for 875 both times. When I look at this, the question I have is, did these increases in value come with renovation? The answer is yes. 1056 renovated. Okay. And then this one is such a low comp. I'm sure the appreciation just came from the fact that they bought it for $775,000. It's really not comparable. So in my opinion, the biggest headwind that the seller has for this house is the fact that there's not really been any appreciation. You're going to have to really convince me that you have somehow proven some appreciation in this house. Because keep in mind, they're asking for 25% more than what they purchased for in February of 2022. And I don't see it. If I'm a buyer, I want to offer $1.5 million. I'm going to say your house has not appreciated at all. Now, when I look at these comps, I see that they're not exactly out of range for what houses have been selling for in this area. Now, there are 2 other ways that we can value a house. So what we just did was essentially looked at comparables and we looked at repeat sales. But let's talk about the 2 other methods, because I think these offer insight in this as well. Okay, this is $242 a square foot. Granted, 2,200 is basement square footage. But the truth is if you wanted to build this house today, I don't think you could build it for $240 a square foot. In fact, I think it would be over $300 a foot to build this house. Now, if you're a builder, comment, could you build this house for $240 a square foot? $240 a foot in Brentwood, Tennessee for that size house, all brick. Look at that deck. I mean, I would be curious. Could you do it? The reason that's important is because if the cost to build, if you're buying something where the cost to build or replacement cost is actually higher than what you're purchasing, you're buying value. That's something that Sam Zell did in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. He made massive monies because he just purchased with the assumption that if I'm purchasing something that someone's going to want and it's below cost to build, eventually the price will appreciate to where it belongs. So in that sense, I think this is a good value. So it's good value on replacement cost. When it comes to appreciation, I'm going to disagree. Somehow it's appreciated 25%. So I'm going to disagree there. Now let's look at the income approach. Now, the income approach is interesting because when an investor looks at an income approach, they use something called cap rate. And when they use cap rate, they don't consider debt costs at all. They just look at operating expenses. They compare it to rent. They get that income number. They essentially create a cap rate or a return on investment. I'm taking a little bit of a different approach here. I'm already including the debt in it and then calculating cash on cash, trying to back into an operating income and just adding back the principal payout and then getting a total return with an appreciation assumption. So it tries to calculate all three of those. It's just a little bit different than using a traditional cap rate model. What would this property rent for? Okay, so I said I think it would rent for $10,000. Now the truth is we can go to Zillow and we can do one of two ways. We can just look to see. Let's see, rent. Oh, it's not available. Okay, whenever it's not available, if you just X out of it and then you just go to where it is, I'll show you. This is like a hack that I use. I have no idea if it's like really that good, but it's saying $7,700. So the rent's estimate is $7,700. Now they took it off because it's for sale, but $7,700. I think you could probably get more than that, but let's just use theirs, $7,700. Okay, $7,700. All right, so if I were to assume a vacancy, management fee, and then, by the way, taxes, $5,200. Can you believe that on taxes for this? $5,200 a year. This is why Brentwood properties aren't crashing, is because you can cut it $100,000 or you can wait. It's worth it to wait when you're only paying $500-$600 a month and you get $100,000 more if you don't have to sell. A lot of people aren't selling because they don't have to sell. But anyways, monthly payment, taxes, and insurance on this house is going to run you right around $6,500 for this house. Okay, $6,500. Now you can rent it for $7,700 according to Zillow, of course, who needs an 8-bed, 5-bath house. Even though your cash flow would be negative, because of the principal pay down, which by the way is $3,000 a month on this house, $3,000 a month, your return on this house, if you rented it out, would be about 6% if you could get $7,700. That includes 1 month of vacancy per year and a 10% management fee, which I think you could probably negotiate down. Maintenance, I don't know what maintenance would be on a $1.9 million house, probably more than what I have here. If I'm purchasing this house to live in, this is actually an incredible value. If you look at what your mortgage payment would be, the 2.3% rate with the loan balance, you'd have about a $6,400 a month payment with $3,200 going towards principal every single month. You'd only have 25 years left. Now, if you had the same loan today, so we're going to take the same loan amount, which in this case is about $1.35 million, it would be at a 6% rate. It would be $8,700 per month, and only $1,500 would be going towards principal. It would take you 30 years to pay this off. This only 25 years left. And look, the monthly payment is, I'm eyeballing 25% less, and the principal payment, the percent of the mortgage that's going towards the principal is double what it would be in a conventional. In fact, let's just look, 49% of your payment, including taxes and insurance, but 49% of your payment will be going towards principal if you assume this mortgage, versus if you took a conventional route, only 17% of your first payment would be going towards your principal. Just the unbelievable value and assumption here. Do I think it's worth $1.9 million? I think if I'm making an offer, I would make the offer for 1.5 and I would just say, you have to convince me that this market has appreciated at all because I don't see it. And I would let them either get mad and tell me to move on or convince me that it's worth more. And then I would push for assumption. Now, the key is you do not pay more for assumption. So you negotiate this like I want the fair value for this property. And that's why I'd start at 1.5. If I was representing a buyer and they got this house at 1.9 and it fit their needs, I actually don't think it's the worst deal in the world, but I don't think it's appreciated 25% in value in 2 years. I hope that helped you understand the value of assumable mortgages. I hope this exercise was entertaining, fun, and educational. And if you do like this content, if you want to learn more about assumptions, and if you're in the Nashville market, you want to buy either one of those, subscribe to the channel, reach out, ask questions. I love hearing from you all. And with that, I hope you all have a great rest of the day. I look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Thanks for watching.